my angels, it's Hailey Reese, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so beyond grateful that you are here, and I really do hope, as always, that you're having an absolutely incredible morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Welcome back to yet another episode in our 31 days of Halloween here on my channel, where I'm uploading a new video every single day for 31 days. And today's video is one that is absolutely terrifying. They say some stories are never meant to be told, not because they're untrue. It's really the opposite. Some stories are meant to stay silent because they're too real. For centuries, we've been told and read of ghost stories, shared by firelight in hushed, whispered voices. They've always fascinated us. We've been told the tales of restless spirits and haunted houses are simply made-up stories, something to laugh about when the lights come back on. But despite the skepticism, ghosts don't need us to believe in them for their existence to be real. For many, these stories aren't entertainment, but rather memories they wish to forget. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 of the scariest real-life ghost stories that until now have stayed hidden. Buried in silence and locked away by fear, these are first-hand encounters with something unexplainable, horrifying, and haunted. Now, this first story is titled The Girl by the Creek, and it starts like this. I grew up in a small town surrounded by forest, the kind of place where kids still played outside until the streetlights came on. There was a creek that wound behind the neighborhood, shallow but wide, tucked inside a forest. One night, a group of us decided to play hide and seek out there. The sun was almost gone, and it was almost time to go home. I remember laughing as I ran down the path, leaves snapping under my shoes. I crossed the little wooden bridge and ducked behind a thick old tree near the water. I crouched there, trying to steady my breathing, listening for footsteps. But then, I heard something else. A whisper. It was faint, a child's voice, just on the edge of the sound of the creek. At first, I thought it was one of my friends trying to scare me, but it came again, closer this time. The voice was soft, almost curious. I turned my head and froze. A little girl was standing on the opposite bank. She looked about 7, white dress, bare feet, long dark hair hanging in wet strands that hung to her shoulders. Her skin was pale in a way that didn't look right. Her hair clung in a way that was unsettling. She looked like she hadn't seen sunlight in a long time. And her dress, it was dripping, like she'd just climbed out of the creek. I remember thinking she must have just fallen in. I stood up slowly, about to ask if she was okay. But when I met her eyes, my stomach dropped. She wasn't blinking. She just stared, lips moving as a whisper came again. I could barely make it out over the running water. He pushed me. Before I could move, I heard branches snapping behind me, and I jumped to one of my friends calling my name. I turned around just for a second, and when I looked back, she was gone. No splash, no ripples, no sound. My friend came running up, laughing, asking who I was talking to. When I said there was a girl, he stopped smiling. "There's no one out here," he said. "You're seeing things." I didn't say anything else that night, but I couldn't stop thinking about her face, those still eyes, and the way her dress clung to her legs like it belonged underwater. A few weeks later, I mentioned it to my grandmother. She got very quiet and told me something I didn't know. Apparently, back in the 1960s, a little girl had gone missing in that same stretch of woods. They'd found her body down by the creek a few days later. They never figured out how she drowned. Some people say she slipped, while others whisper that somebody pushed her. I've gone back to the forest since then, but still can't go near the creek. It will scare me for the rest of my life, no matter how many years pass. I've inserted here on the screen an image that's meant to recreate what the boy saw by the creek that day and how the little girl appeared to him, with these dark eyes and the dark hair and the wet dress. It's really, really eerie. Now, there's a lot of people who believe that experiences like this are nothing more than a child playing outside with an imagination. But how could he have known of the little girl by the creek claiming to be pushed? I don't know about you guys, but that one definitely gives me the chills. Let me know down below what you think. Let's get into the next experience. This one is absolutely terrifying, and it's called My Sister's Voice. This story happened when I was young, and I still have trouble telling it. It was around 2:30 in the morning when I heard my little sister call my name. Her voice was soft, almost whispering, coming from somewhere below me. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but then she called again, clearer this time, fully waking me up. "Can you come here?" her little voice called. My room was quiet and the house was still. My sister was only 7 at the time, and she was scared of the dark, sometimes even having nightmares. I figured she must have gone downstairs for a drink and got spooked. I sat up and hear her voice again. "Down here," she says, her voice faint and echoing. It took a second before I realized where it was coming from. The basement. This made no sense. My sister hated the basement. She wouldn't even go near the door during the day. "What are you doing down there?" I called. "Come on," she said, a little impatient now. "I'm right here." Something about her tone made my stomach twist. She didn't sound scared anymore. She sounded playful, like she was teasing me. I grabbed my phone for light and crept into the hallway. I remember passing Emma's bedroom door on my way to the stairs, closed dark. I almost knocked to check, but her voice came again, closer. She was standing just at the bottom of the steps, asking me to hurry. Honest to God, the hairs on my arms stood up. I shone my phone down the staircase and I took a cautious step. I told her something about how she was freaking me out and to come back upstairs. But now there was nothing but silence. Then I start to hear whispers. These don't sound like my sister's. And suddenly, whispering low and close, I hear, "Don't you want to play?" My throat went dry. It was my sister, but it sounded wrong. Like her voice had been recorded and was being played back, maybe slightly slower or even deeper. I forced myself down one more step. But then I felt something. I called her name again. No answer anymore. The whispers started as I walked back toward the top of the stairs. My heart was thudding so loud I could hear it. Then from behind me, I heard my sister's soft and trembling voice. "Don't leave me." I turned and see a shadow crawling up the stairs. It looked like it could be the shape of a child, but the limbs were wrong. Maybe too long, and the fingers were gripping the steps like claws. I remember I screamed, sprinted, and slammed the basement door shut. I just kept running and screaming for my parents. They came stumbling out of their rooms, half asleep but panicked. And as I stood there, trying to explain what had happened, my sister comes out of her room. My entire life since, everyone has tried to tell me it was a bad dream or a night terror whenever I tell them the story. But it felt so real that even now as an adult, it makes me feel sick. Even weirder, my dad has since admitted that in the time living in that house, he never felt right in the basement. If you've been on my channel for a while, you guys would know that when I was younger and experiencing all of my haunted house stuff, I had a thing with my basement in my childhood home that was really, really unsettling to me. And I just remember that feeling of running up those stairs and slamming the door. So for me personally, reading this story and knowing my real life experience, I can almost see it all playing out in my head, and it is absolutely chilling. But what do you think of that experience? Do you think it really was perhaps some sort of a night terror, or do you think it was a paranormal experience? They believe it to be, but but I want to know what you think down below. And this final experience is called Something Wanted My Daughter. My husband and I bought the old home when I was 6 months pregnant. When we first saw the listing, we couldn't believe the price. It was nearly half what similar houses in the area sold for. The realtor was honest, maybe a little too honest. The house had trouble selling because decades ago, a man had murdered his wife in the upstairs hallway. It really was a tragic story, but it felt far enough in the past that we brushed it off. And while we looked through the house, it felt quiet and almost peaceful. Hence, us moving in. For the first few weeks, things were perfectly normal. We spent our evenings stripping wallpaper, sanding floors, and painting over the dated kitchen. But right after we started tearing down the old drywall in what would be the nursery, I began to feel watched. Not constantly, just little moments. A chill down my back when I stood there alone, the sound of faint footsteps upstairs when I knew my husband was in the basement. One afternoon, I found every window in the nursery open. It was February and freezing outside. I'd been the only one home. The windows closed earlier. I tried to tell myself it was just old locks and shifting wood. But when our daughter was born, everything changed. It started with the dreams. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, hearing crying. Not Emma's, but something lower and raspier. In the dream, I'd walk into her room and see a shadow standing over the crib. I could never see its face, just the outline of a man. At first, I told no one, thinking this was some sort of postpartum thing. Then, one night, I woke up to the baby screaming on the baby monitor. That sharp, panicked cry that makes your blood as a mother run cold. But underneath it, there was another sound. A whisper. A voice. It wasn't clear at first, just a breathy rhythm, until I realized it wasn't my husband. It was someone saying Emma's name. I ran. When I got to the nursery, she was red-faced and trembling, staring towards the corner of the room, hysterical. There was nothing or no one there. After that, the activity became impossible to ignore. Toys turned on by themselves, doors slammed, TVs and lights turned on and off. Then came the picture. It was a small framed photo from Emma's baptism I'd hung in her nursery. One afternoon, I heard a loud crash and ran upstairs to find the glass shattered and the frame lying in pieces on the floor. No reason, and again, no draft. That night, I checked the baby monitor obsessively. Late in the night, I would glance at the screen and freeze. There was a face, not Emma's, in the corner of the frame, pale and watching her. I screamed so loudly my husband nearly broke the bedroom door down. I didn't sleep for 2 nights. Instead, I sat in the living room researching everything I could find. EVP voices, residual hauntings, attachments. I found a local medium with years of experience and invited her to the home. When she walked inside, she didn't even make it past the hallway before she said, "It wants the baby." She started explaining that sometimes when something violent happens in a place, it leaves behind an energy, and that there was something dark here, unfinished. She believes whatever's in the house attached itself to Emma the moment she was born. The cleansing took hours, burning sage, reciting prayers, and sealing mirrors. The house felt lighter afterwards, but never completely normal. We ended up staying for about 4 more years with activity on and off while trying to make it work, convincing ourselves the worst was over. But the nightmares would come back, and as Emma got older, she started talking to someone she called the tall man, mostly in her room. We moved not long after that. And even now, in a bright new house though, I still catch Emma staring into corners and tilting her head like she's listening. I never believed in the paranormal until this point, but I know what we experienced was definitely a ghost. And I'm absolutely a believer now. Baby monitors. There is something with the baby monitors that capture paranormal activity that is absolutely terrifying. Wasn't it Paranormal Activity that showed things on the baby monitor? Maybe that was one of the first horror films I'd seen where that was a focus, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, absolutely terrifying, and I would love to know what you think of the experience. There were some people who claimed that with this particular haunting, there was a dark entity in the house that would try to possess an individual of its choosing, many even dating back and considering that the man who had killed his wife could have been under some sort of dark entity attack. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. There you guys have it. 3 terrifying, untold, true stories of the paranormal. What did you guys think of these experiences, and which one freaked you out the most? Do you have any personal experiences that you would like to share with us? Make sure to comment them down below, as one of my favorite things to do is read through your guys' comments and reply to as many as possible. But that is basically it for today's video. If you guys are new to my channel, or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my content, I would love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button, and please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it, as it really helps both me and my channel so I can know what content you're enjoying and more of my content can be shown to you. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness, and until tomorrow, I love you. Bye, guys.